far along are you in your GMU program now? How many courses have you completed and how many would you have left?
Let's see, I have, I think after I complete my current course, I'll have 3 more.
Okay. And you're in the Master of Theology program, correct?
Correct, yes.
We're starting a new program. I think I may have mentioned it last time, which is a doctoral program. It's an only program in science and religion. I'm teaching a course in that program. It's an international program with students in India, Africa, and North America.
Wow.
It's a 2-year program. But those who already have a master's who want on for a doctorate, you have access to all the courses which are recorded in YouTube. It's over the 2 years. And then basically the focus of the doctoral program is a research project. So, and doing literature review and then doing like a dissertation on research in the field of religion and science. I thought of you because you have a medical background. It might, kind of the intersection of religion and science is a big topic in the world in the past today. So it's kind of an exciting program for GMU because we have students from around the world in the program. So we have about 20. I had a class yesterday. I had about 20 students.
Wow. Yeah, for me, GMU in its flexibility has been really impactful actually in 3 ways. For me, it's created a space of theological flexibility, a space of sort of academic scheduling flexibility, and also economic flexibility, where when I first encountered GMU, I was sort of at the margins of my faith tradition that I had grown up in, but I was at the edge where I couldn't find the theological academic support that I was really needing. But because I was still tied to that denomination, I also couldn't access most of the mainstream denominational seminaries in the United States. So GMU created this safe space for me where I could sort of be interdenominational and still trying to find my way and have access to solid, sound theological discourse and explore and learn. So that was really valuable for me, that theological safe space that I couldn't find in the tradition I grew up in and I couldn't access in the mainstream denominations in the United States. That was really pivotal for me. Beyond that, I am a dentist full-time and I have a family and I have a life like everyone does. And so I didn't have the luxury of being able to be a full-time seminarian. And so the flexibility of GMU's online program was really key for me also to be able to pursue this education where I could do it, at my pace, evenings, weekends, and connect with my professors as needed via email or phone. They've always been very welcoming of contact and flexible in making arrangements to connect. So that was really crucial. And that third bit of economic flexibility I talked about, the cost of GMU is dramatically less than sort of the mainstream seminaries in the United States. So that ability to afford the program and pay over time was also crucial to be able to just fit it into our budget and make it possible for me to pursue the degree. So yeah, multi-dimensional flexibility that GMU offered that really was key for me to be able to access this at all.
Mary Aktay has joined us. She's our Director of Communication. I think,
Hi, Mary.
I don't know about the interspace, as I understood it, that GMU sort of is, doesn't fit into the traditional mold of training, which usually is attached to a traditional denomination. GMU is broader than that and seems to have the ability to capture the latest trends, positive trends, like say ecological thinking, connecting ecology with theology is just one example. And the role of women's, we have a lot of feminist courses which is an area that GMU prides itself on, the women in ministry, and interdenominational and interfaith. So those are, I think, things you brought out, which GMU has kind of pioneered, I think, over the last 20 years.
Yes, I definitely appreciate, and I'm going to use the quote, theological safe space. That's brilliant, because it is.
Yeah, I was telling Aaron about, as GMU has expanded internationally, that area, safe space, seems to also apply globally because, there's a lot of fundamentalism in religion, parts of the world. So it's hard to have a conversation in some parts of the world without feeling you're going to be attacked by expressing your own views.
It's hard to have a conversation in this country without feeling you're going to be attacked.
Right. So it's both in the United States and so now that we have these affiliations both in India and Africa, it's allowed us. I was telling, I taught my course yesterday. I had students in 3 different continents: India, Africa, and North America. So it was kind of exciting for me to see continue to evolve. He appreciates the support he's gotten from his new professors. Is there anybody you wanted to single out in that area that you found most helpful to you?
Yeah, well, I've had a few courses with Michael Conley. He's been really pivotal in helping me. Early on, I had courses with him, and that was really helpful for me as I was still grappling with my, childhood faith tradition, but also exploring alternative ideas and interpretations. And his classes on the Old and New Testament and on Paul and Paul's writings were really key for me to be able to have alternate perspectives and understandings of the biblical narrative and what it means to be a Jesus follower. So he was really helpful. And my current course is Feminist Theology with Judith Johnson, and she's really been helpful in the readings she's recommended and also in her perspective sharing. Really pivotal. Yeah.
Perhaps that's another area where GMU, as you brought out, many people that come within the Christian tradition are working off of their childhood experiences, what they learned in their childhood. But just as you've grown in your own professional life, you also have to grow in your understanding of faith. So I think another dimension you brought out of GMU, how it's helped you clarify your own faith development. Could you comment a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another dimension that's been really initially was sort of surprising to me and interesting, but in retrospect, it's been very helpful, is that the group of professors I've interacted with are by no means homogenous. They have very different experience and varied perspective, but all ultimately seem to be seeking the same thing of unity and understanding and flourishing for all. And so that's been really helpful, that sort of common thread that runs through, even though there are varied perspectives and experiences. And I have very little exposure to interfaith activities. That was discouraged for me growing up in my denomination, where you didn't interact with the other because they might contaminate your thinking. And so to be able to be in an environment where you're comfortable with your theology, you're not afraid to engage in other theology, and you recognize that there is good to be had from the interaction, that's been really liberating, to feel like ultimately we're all on the same team here. Actually, it's not us against them or us needing to convince them, but we can each hold our theologies and they can be different and we can still bring flourishing. I feel like that's sort of the new space that I'm really enjoying living in.
Yeah. I think some Christians think that if you just study the Bible, that's all you need to do. You don't need theology, And I love the Bible. I think the Bible it has tremendous inspiration in it and revelation. But I think theology is important as well, which is through time. You know, to understand faith and reason interacting, we need theology, because otherwise, you're in the medical scientific area. We know how much the medical field has changed and is continuing changes. So the same thing is true. Our understanding of our faith has to be interpreted through theology. So I think that's another area you brought out, that your own faith has benefited from theological reflection. Would you say that?
Absolutely. And being able to it was really in my current feminist theology class, reading Mary Daly and Sally McFaig, that I was able to understand that theology is something that we do. Like you said, when people sort of conflate theology and the Bible to be the same thing, or God in the Bible, and they don't recognize that theology, in my mind, is a verb. It's not a noun. It's something that we have to do, like the contributors to the Bible were doing as they're recording their interactions with the divine.
Right.
We have to continue to do that, to grapple with the text we have and reinterpret them in light of our interactions with the divine. And if we don't do that, then we're not going to be able to use everyone's lived experience as an epistemological source. We'll just stay confined to the few that were approved historically, and oppression will continue for those groups. So it's just been really horizon broadening, and it's such a blessing. Yeah.
Would you say that your study of theology with GMU has impacted your work as a dentist at all?
Absolutely. I initially, my experience in dentistry was very sort of entrepreneurial and profitability driven for the first maybe decade of my career. But then as I started to go through these theological changes and ideological transitions, I noticed that it was manifesting itself in my career, and I moved away from sort of the profit-driven private sector competitive realm of healthcare into elder care and marginalized, to the point now where I've moved into, I'm a program administrator for a public health clinic. And so a lot of my work is focused on bringing down barriers to access in healthcare. So it's been a dramatic shift for me professionally also, that's happened sort of simultaneously with this theological experience. And I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the social justice teachings of Christianity have been impactful for you, which I think you bringing out that work you're doing has benefited from your studies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mary, did you have any questions?
Not really a question, just a comment. You just mentioned bringing down barriers. And I think that reflects on GMU, bringing down barriers between faiths, or between the appreciation of interfaith dialogue, etc. And to see that carried over into your work, that's marvelous. That you now bring your healing ministry, if you will. It is a practice, but it's also a ministry that you are doing as a dentist, helping people. So that's brilliant.
Yes, definitely. I think anything I can do to help spread the word about GMU or promote the cause, I'm absolutely willing to do. And I think everyone should get a master's in theology. It doesn't matter what kind of work you do, your theology matters. And so we need to spend equal time educating ourselves on that, like we do on everything else.
Right.
Can we quote you on that? Everyone should get a master's in theology. I have 2 courses left to get my master's in theology.
Great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Because the study of God, theologos, the word, it impacts all of us. And it's funny because I have a group that I meet with every month, and they are mostly atheists. We do have a few religious believers, but mostly they are atheists. And they too see the need for perhaps not a relationship with the divine as a religious person would define it. They do not think of God as a person on a cloud somewhere. But then again, neither do I. But they do see the need for building interspiritual relationships with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's perhaps where theology is moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think, it's like let me show you my shirt here. This is a t-shirt I wear often.
Uh-huh.
I think your theology drives your worldview. And even if you say, well, I'm not religious, you still have a theology. And so we need to get clear on that, because without it, we will continue to believe the lie of disconnectedness, and we will not flourish.
Where did you get your shirt from?
Amazon.
Okay. Great.
Wonderful.
Well, we really appreciate the time you've given us. And this has been not only informative, but inspirational for those who dedicated much of our life to teaching theology, or, teaching, making GMU important in people's lives. I think it gives us a boost of confidence that what we're doing matters to people. Sometimes we're not sure how many people really value what we do, but this gives us a lot of inspiration to go on and continue the journey with the work that GMU does. We're excited to have a student who's so clear about the value of their education and how GMU fits into their life, both in terms of its flexibility, its ability to grasp the latest trends in theology, and also benefit your personal career. That it's been wonderful hearing your own story.
Yeah, thank you.
And we get an amen.
Yeah, I'm so glad to share. And I'm even willing, if you have inquiries, if people want to talk to me, I'd be happy to email or talk to them on the phone.
Wonderful.
Okay, Mary, you want to keep that in mind?
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, feel free to share
That
my
would be
contact
wonderful.
with prospective students if they're unsure, or if they just want to talk to somebody about it. I'm more than happy to.
That would be great.
And thank you both so much for your efforts. You've been involved with GMU a lot longer than I have, and
well, from the beginning. Yeah.
It's been literally life-changing for me, and been a blessing to my family. So it's been super impactful. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
Wonderful.
Please continue to spread the word, to spread the good news. You are our apostle now.
We'll be in touch with you about, as we have people interested. I think it'd be great for them to speak with you as a someone who's not on our staff, but just a student who's benefited from the program.
Yeah.